Welcome back. At the heart of state budget discussions this year, a massive surplus that Democrats and Republicans alike have different ideas of how to spend. I sat down earlier this week with Republican Representative Mark Bourne, who co-chairs the powerful Budget Committee. I wanted to just start off with, obviously we have, as has been talked about at length, this giant surplus, right? And I think there's some questions raised yesterday. You know, Governor Evers is calling it a $7 billion surplus. In terms of continuity, Voss said it was closer to $3 billion. In terms of what can be used in the next budget, where do we stand with that?
Well, it is accurate to say that the state has a $7 billion surplus at the end of the biennium. But it also is important for folks to understand that a lot of that money is money that's kind of in the savings account, maybe if you tried to compare it to a household situation where that's not all ongoing revenue. And we really need to build budgets on ongoing revenue, like a family might build their budget on their paycheck and how you spend. You don't do your regular spending in your household based on what happens to be in your savings account, where you're going to run out of money as you go along the way paying your bills. So the ongoing funds are what's the important part of crafting a budget. And then the one-time money, or the money in the savings account, can be investments in other areas, pay down debt, capital investments, things that are one-time expenses. The household example, again, to carry that on, might be, buying the new car is a one-time cost, but you don't want the regular maintenance on that car to be tied to your savings account, or you're going to run out of money. So the ongoing stuff is like Speaker Voss said, closer to less than half that, about $3 billion. And so that's really what a responsible budget needs to be crafted with.
So in terms of that one-time funds, where do you see Republicans looking to invest those one-time funds, whether in tax breaks or otherwise, separate from potentially the next 2-year budget?
Yeah, one-time money, then, like I mentioned a couple examples already, you could pay down debt, you can make investments in capital things like the capital budget. I think there'll be some other areas that are discussed. That's really what the budget process is for the next several months, to identify those things that are true one-time costs. Tax reform is certainly not a one-time cost. That's an ongoing cost. And so I don't think we'll be looking at tax reform and the use of one-time money, but I think there'll be ideas on capital expenditures that are good investments and for folks here in Wisconsin.
Senator LeMahieu has floated a flat tax potential, a plan that he'd like to see in place. Do we see that going anywhere in this next cycle?
I think for several budgets now, we've been working towards a flat tax. I think we'll continue to work with tax reform in that direction in this budget. I don't know that we'll be able to, I think it's unlikely that we'll be able to reach the full flat tax in this budget, but it's a good goal. It's a good policy. It reflects what's happening in the Midwest with our neighbors and most states being on a flat tax and at a lower rate here in the Midwest. So it's certainly a goal that we're continuing to work towards.
Governor Evers has proposed tax cuts for what he calls middle income people, middle to low income people. Republicans mentioned yesterday tax cuts for all ranges. Could you give some specific details about potentially what types of cuts viewers could be seeing? Are we talking income or other types of tax cuts potentially going into the cycle?
I think the governor's budget really is mostly about tax increases. He has some small tax cuts in certain areas, and then tax increases in a whole variety of areas where the tax increases outweigh the cuts. The Republican budget will truly be tax cuts. We will always find ways in our tax reform to impact all taxpayers. Historically, we've cut taxes, and both property taxes and income taxes, and I think we'll look at both those areas again moving forward. And those details will be worked out in the next few months of the budget process.
Do you have any additional specifics on potentially which brackets or all brackets could be impacted by income, or any specifics on property tax cuts?
No, but at this point, we're just working through the process. We just know that our goals will be similar to what they've been in the past, to make sure that we're impacting folks across Wisconsin. And we'll look mostly at those two areas.
There's been a lot of calls regarding shared revenue returned back to local municipalities. That's obviously been a big point of discussion for both parties over the past several years. There was a mention that this week that potentially any additional funding to local governments would have to come with restrictions. What kinds of restrictions would we be looking at?
I think we're looking more at reforms, and this is something that a number of us have been talking about. We're not looking to fund the same old systems. We want to fund innovation, and we want to fund essential services for the future. And so while we recognize the need to infuse some more money into local governments to provide those essential services, we want to make sure we're not just funding the same old things, and we're really funding the future needs of our local governments that are providing some of those essential services like public safety in our communities.
So you're suggesting additional funding for places like perhaps fire and police, but not for potentially other aspects of local government?
I don't believe I said that. I said that it needs to be, innovation, reforms, things that are, I'm not going to try to list every service that's essential. And, public safety is one example of that. And it changes in different parts of the state as to what folks think are the most important things that their local government's providing. I think it's just to focus on making sure that there are efficiencies and that we're not funding just the same old systems.
Is there any aspect of the governor's budget proposals that you wouldn't change, that you would get behind?
I think it's hard to find anything where it's exactly the way that we would approach it. I think it's more of, he's making investments in education. We're going to make investments in education. He's looking at some similar things with local governments and the funding. The devil's in the details, like we just talked about. We want to see some slightly different approaches to some of those things. So I think identifying some of those key issues is where the agreement is. It's just now we need to find the right solutions for those challenges. And that's where the differences need to be hammered out.
You mentioned, you gave an example of education. Do you have an idea of specifics of what types of education investments you'd be looking at?
We'll be looking to invest in education like we have every budget since I've been here. This is my sixth budget now. As far as the specific numbers, that's what the next 3-4 months of the budget process is for, to see how all these things fit together and to have a chance to get out and listen to folks in my district, as well as the finance committee travels the state for the public hearings in April, to hear from people all around the state and to make sure that we craft a budget that's for all of Wisconsin and invest in the right priorities and in the right amounts, and that those amounts all fit into a balanced budget, which is required, of course, here in the state of Wisconsin.
Last question for you. If you thought that there was one thing that you could come close to promising Wisconsinites is going to happen in this budget, what would that one thing be?
I'm going to have to pick that the one thing would be there will be tax reform that will lower taxes for all Wisconsinites in some manner that will help a little bit during these inflationary times where home budgets are challenged.
All right. Well, thank you so much, as always, for coming on and talking about this.
Yep. Glad to do it. Thanks.
When we come back, a look back at the 25th anniversary of one of Dane County's most chilling murder mysteries.